So, I guess it's time to give some thoughts on War of the Chosen, because we've gone through the entire game. I've played through XCOM2 multiple times. My reflexive thought on War of the Chosen is that it is a dramatic improvement to the base XCOM2 game, and like we kind of have to look back at some of the older XCOM games to realize why that's my initial thought. If we look at, actually, let's load this real quick. It'll be easier to show. But if we go back to a lot of the older XCOM games, it wasn't just the tactical that was like the big selling point. In the very first XCOM game, you had to build a base. The base could get assaulted by aliens. You had to manage all your resources. You had to manage like radars and stuff like that. You also had to do research, but like if you did too much wanton destruction on missions, you would destroy a lot of stuff that you needed for research. So you had to strike this balance of like, you need UFO power sources. You can't just throw grenades in the alien ship or shoot missiles in it. So it was like tactical and strategic, and they kind of meshed together. Like the stuff that you needed tactically, you could see on the tactical map. It wasn't some like anomalous plot MacGuffin. And that was like and that carried over to Enemy Within, like the UFO power sources, the alien nav computers. You could see that on the bridge of the alien spaceship, and if you destroyed them, you didn't get to use them. Base building was still a thing, and managing country panic was huge. In the base XCOM 2, the base building is kind of insubstantial, and War of the Chosen isn't that much better. Like, put this base building whatsoever. There was no strategy. We just dug till we hit power coils, put them and built whatever we needed, and that was it. The strategic map, you kind of end up in the same scenario. Like, there was no strategy. It was like, we're gonna go towards black sites, and that's pretty much it. Where, like, you can't control where you start like you could in all previous XCOMs. Not only can you not control where you start, but like you don't even control what bonuses they have. Like, the bonuses are random. So even if you could control where you started, it wouldn't matter. So like, starting position in the base XCOM 2 didn't affect anything. It doesn't really affect that much in this game. So the problem was that the base XCOM 2 game felt very shallow. It was a bunch of tactical missions that were kind of strung together, but didn't have a solid foundation strategically. Like the strategic map, especially in the base XCOM 2, you could do all of the things. Like, you didn't have to like pick and choose different things to scan. You could do everything. Like there was no real choice there. The base building, there was no real choice. There wasn't anything on missions that directly affected your strategic picture. Like, it wasn't like you needed to all previous XCOM games, you could steal alien weaponry and basically try to jump tiers in the tech tree by using that stolen weaponry. This is like the first game that I can remember that you can't do that. Like, in the original XCOM, you could just grab heavy plasmas off the ground and be like, fuck it, I'm gonna dump some scientists into this. It's gonna take a while, but like, once it's done, we have heavy plasma. Like, we have N-tier weapons. You could do the same thing in Enemy Within if you tased enemies and stole their weapons instead of killing them, which was very risky, and you'd spend a lot of time researching them, but you jump straight over lasers to endgame plasmas. This game, you can't do that at all. So like, you don't even have like any of these weird, fun, esoteric research branches you can do. And this was one of the big areas where I felt like XCOM 2 let itself down. In addition to the base XCOM 2 having a lot of very samey missions that all had obnoxious time limits, there wasn't really a lot to do strategically that made a difference. It made every game feel kind of samey because there wasn't a lot of strategy to how you're building your base. There was no strategy to how you're building up XCOM. War of the Chosen changes a bit of that. You do actually have to make choices about what to scan, generally speaking. Like, during this playthrough, I was never able to scan everything at once. You also have enough RNG strategically and making strategic decisions, like through the eyes, or between the eyes. Like, between the eyes dramatically change how we approach encounters. The increased will recovery also probably changed, like, I'm not sure how much, but we had that active for almost the whole game. That probably changed how fast we were able to level people up, how fast we were able to keep people in the field after missions. So there's a lot of potential to change up how the game plays from playthrough to playthrough that you just didn't have in the base game. So that I like. I also like the exhaustion mechanic, which forces you, like, you can't just like power level a handful of gods. You have to balance your soldiers a lot, which also gives you a fallback if you get a team wipe. You get a team wipe, you still have your B team. They're not the best, but you're at least not completely screwed. So, and then of course you have the Chosen themselves are more like I'll give them crap, but they were actually pretty fun. Because unlike a lot of the alien hunters, the original alien hunters, when it drops them on you, it's just like, here's an alien hunter, and like it doesn't tell you anything about what it does. So when you walk up to it to get a shot, the alien hunter just shoots you and you're dead. Whereas here, it's like, here's what the Chosen is, here's all of its special abilities, here's its benefits and its drawbacks, and that's like. So it's like, it shows the difference in the quality between the alien hunters, which was kind of crappy and tacked on to some extent, versus like the Chosen, which is a much better thought out system where you're giving the player the opportunity to make meaningful decisions. So I guess you could say a lot of my problems are solved. Like, I would still, if they're doing an XCOM 3, I would still like to see the base building be something more than this. I still want to see like ways to jump tech tree stuff, because that's just been an XCOM tradition, and like it's weird to have a game where you can't jump over the mid-tier weapons. And I want a game where your starting position on the map matters, right? Like, where your starting position on the map is relevant, where there are legitimate strategies around starting in different locations. Because if you've never played the original XCOM, like the very, very first one, you could be like, I'm going to put my base dead center of Antarctica. And you would fight a lot of missions on the ice, and it turns out the Penguins would be grateful, but they didn't have a lot of money, so you would go bankrupt very quickly. And so like the game will just let you make this dumb YOLO decision where you have to build another base somewhere that's relevant incredibly fast, or you just lose. So as much as I'm okay with the game not letting you make dumb YOLO decisions, this is kind of in the exact opposite. Like, the decisions you're making as far as where you're moving in the map kind of don't matter. Like, you just move towards black sites. And getting continent bonuses for income, like, you don't need that much money, strictly speaking, to really get going. So, like, I never found myself rushing for continent bonuses like, oh my god, I need cash. Yeah. Yeah, I would broadly agree, Brian. Because you have like chosen weapons and bonds, and like, yeah, like your A team, as you saw from that encounter, our A team was just god fucking people. But the mid game does get more interesting and more challenging. The early game also, like, the early game starts off slower, but it can be more challenging because of course you have exhaustion, so you can't just power level. So you don't have all of the like fallbacks that you do, and you don't have all the fallbacks that you do if you're just power leveling a handful of guys. Because, like, in XCOM 2, if you just blaze through the first, like, 4 missions and don't get anybody wounded, which is entirely possible, you have a team that can, yeah, you can snowball that, and it just victory after victory after victory, and just stomp your way through the game. On the other hand, if you start running into major problems, like a lot of people start getting wounded early, yeah, like, the Avatar project timer does kind of become meaningless with the resistance ring, because you can just keep launching the missions to curve that. But, like, the Avatar project timer was also, like, a weird... I don't know, like, I still do not like it as a lose condition. Like, I liked the you have to keep countries happy, and if they pull their funding, you're out, from previous games. Or if your base gets assaulted, you're out. Which you kind of have a base assault in this mission, but in this game, but not really. Like, the base assault in this is very generous, as is the base assault in Enemy Within. Like, it's almost impossible to fail those. It's not like the original XCOM where it's like, it's a base assault. A bunch of ethereals and sectopods are in your base with blaster launchers. Like, Jesus Christ, we're all dead. So, but yeah, like, if they keep... The things I really liked about this game, the tactical system felt very fluid. Like, they had definitely streamlined the hell out of it. The soldier customization system was awesome. I like 10 out of 10. I love the idea to make a soldier pool. The propaganda photos are fun. Like, I didn't really use them that much, but it's like, I didn't use them that much, but like the propaganda photos are a fun little touch. Like, it's If it's between propaganda photos and character creators or a much more robust like strategic system, I would much rather have the more robust strategic system because that gives you a lot more replay. Like it gives you the ability to. What do you do in the commander's office? I've never even been up here. View objectives, event report. Okay, so it doesn't do anything. Just like random room. But yeah, that's my general thoughts on like how War of the Chosen stacks up in the XCOM series. I think it's better than the base game XCOM2. I'm not sure if it. I'm trying to debate if it's like as good as Enemy Within. Because like Enemy Within was a really good game, had a lot of replayability. There's a lot of strategy, both strategically and tactically, all that good stuff. On the other hand, Enemy Within was also had the same problem this game has in that it's kind of broken as fuck at points. Like you can make absolute god tier assaults in that game that are just completely unstoppable. So like War of the Chosen and Enemy Within are at least comparable games, whereas XCOM 2 and Enemy Within were not comparable games. Like XCOM 2 is just missing so much that it wasn't really up to the same standard in my opinion. And when I brought some of these complaints up to people, they thought I was just like the game was just hard. It's like I'm gonna probably bruise some egos here, but there are a lot of fallbacks in the base XCOM 2 and in War of the Chosen. Like if you notice, even the playthrough where we got dumpstered, like we were running missions mid-game with 4 rookies and we were still winning. Like XCOM 2 is not as hard as a lot of people make it out to be. It's more charitable than Enemy Within in some respects. It's way more charitable than any of the original games. War of the Chosen even gives you better recovery methods because you have more ways to recruit and train people outside of missions. So like War of the Chosen gives you even more of a safety blanket, which it's positive. Like I don't think the game has to be punishingly difficult and give you no recovery, so you're in the dead man walking syndrome that you could get in other XCOMs, where you have no hope of success, but like the game hasn't technically ended. So like I do think it's good to have those recovery mechanisms in the game, but yeah, like I do think people overhype how difficult this game is in general. It's difficult, but like, it's not like as far as the XCOM spectrum, this would be on the lower end. But in general, yeah, that's what I would like to see out of future XCOMs. Those are the things I liked, things that I thought they would bring, that I would like to see brought back, some other things that I would like to see changed going forward. But overall, yeah, it was a fun game. I liked it. So, hope you all enjoy this playthrough. Have a good night, ladies.